Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Convos.dev, where two friends talk about tech, life, development, everything in between. My name is Chris, and I'm here with Jess, as always. And we got a user who asked us a question, listener. Sorry, too much product building over here. But this person said, love the pods. Please recommend something for mindset building, product mindset, building mindset. Books, links, papers, videos, links that are not necessarily on coding or can be on coding. Love the section where you recommend tools you've tried, your note-taking practice, show and tell. So anyhow, they're wondering, like, how do you build mindset? Product mindset, mindset building, and building mindset, which I guess is the same thing. So mindset is important, and like building the right way to think about product and coding and learning. So we're obviously not experts in this, but super happy to chat through, kind of the way we have thought about this or some resources we have. I don't know that I have a ton of super concrete ones, but I have a couple things to share. But Jess, where does your mind go when you hear about like mindset building?
I often throughout the week have just a running list of things I just jot down in my notepad of things I want to learn. So an example is like I was using image generators in AI, and image generators are notoriously bad at generating text.
Yeah.
And so I was like, why are they so bad at generating text? And I didn't have time to look into it then. I just wrote it down. I was like, I'm just going to look into it later. Or like there's just tools like Gastown, Ralph Wiggum, this new React component, new Astro thing, whatever, or like Chris puts out a video. I'm like, I want to watch that later. And I will just either jot down a note of like the concept I want to learn, or if it's a specific article that I'm coming across on like Hacker News or Twitter, I'll just bookmark it. I usually don't have time to read it then, but what I'll do is either weekly on like a weekend morning, or if I don't have time, like monthly cadence, I will just go through that list and just pick and choose the things I want to learn, and I will just go. And this is where it's like not very specific, because I'm not subscribing to a specific newsletter. I'm not subscribing to a certain book or podcast, because then I'm at the mercy of learning the thing that they choose to talk about in that week, and I don't particularly want to do that. I just want to learn the things I want to learn.
Sure.
It's a very ADHD way of learning. And so I will just Google or look on AI or whatever topic, and then I'll just go learn it. Usually I do love using YouTube, because even if I don't watch the video, I will listen to it. I'll just put it on my phone, and I'll just listen to it as I walk. And it's funny, I actually tend to watch YouTube videos twice. I'll listen to it on a walk, and then later on, like a couple months later, I might revisit the topic, and I'll like watch it on my laptop. And honestly, sometimes I do think that helps. I have to watch certain things twice just to solidify the things they're talking about. But that's generally how I approach doing things.
I think in some ways, like the idea of mindset building or like product mindset, like I'm not totally sure the direction they're wanting to take here. And so I was struggling a little bit, and that's kind of where I arrived to. Is just like, how do I think about new things? And hopefully that's what they're asking. But I think for me, it very much like the guiding principles, like if you want better output, find better inputs. And I think, and a lot of times it's easy to take kind of your defaults or like quick takes on things. But I found that like one really well-written post is better to me than like 6 half put together YouTube videos that don't really think about the topic. Same thing with like one really good YouTube video. It's not the medium necessarily. It's just finding people that you're like, when they speak, I want to listen. We have a designer on our team who's the kind of founding designer, and that's how he is. Like whenever he says something, I'm like, okay, I'm going to listen to what he says, because he's clearly thought about this. He's not just shooting off the top of his head kind of thing. So I think I've really worked hard to like find people or sites or people I follow online or whatever, blogs, books, authors that I'm like, okay, I like the way they think. And I think for me, it's actually usually not always around coding. Like a lot of times I find like really different areas of life massively impact the way I think about stuff. And so I try to like cast a fairly wide net, and I read like a lot of fiction, for instance, that has nothing to do with coding, but I think fiction helps a lot with empathy. There's a great book about that I'm not going to go into right now, but I think
wait, no, name the book. This is
that's what they're asking for, is for specific things, right? So there's a writer called Karen Pryor, but she writes about this whole concept of like empathy and narrative, where I think a lot of times if you're very like, I'm down to like, I want to learn things, we tend to stay very focused on the task at hand. But because we live in a world with people, like a lot of those tasks and interacting with those tasks require a certain level of empathy to like think through this. For instance, as an example, like let's say you're building a new section of the product and you're really wanting to convince people of something, but you know it's going to run friction into backend because of this and because the design team is going to have to create this. Like to have empathy for them, like to develop the skill of being empathetic first, and then that actually shapes the way you tell stories to where when you're like, okay, I need to communicate this, but I need to understand that this person is facing this. Or if you're in sales and like I was in a recent sales call with somebody and they kind of heard the initial complaint, which at the time was like, we're not super happy with our provider. We're not really sure what to do next. Basically, we just don't have confidence. And they just ran with, and it was around deliverability. And so they said, well, we can help with deliverability. We can do this thing. But really what they weren't saying is we care about deliverability. What they were saying is we care about wasting our time on stuff we don't care about. And we just want somebody to take care of deliverability so that we can spend time on what we want. And so like a little bit more active, like empathy and listening gets you past the initial things people say to like, what's really going on? Like what's a pain point for them? And I found that like fiction puts me in situations that I would never naturally be in, but that forces me to like grow in those areas. So anyhow, all that to say, whether it's a specific book or not, that book is called On Reading Well, by the way, but whether it's a specific like resource or not, like I'm not so much concerned about, like I'm not going to name a bunch of individuals that I'm like, I like this writer or whatever. It's more, which we can do that in a second. But I think the concept of like better input, better output is so crucial. And I think we tend to be pretty lazy with our inputs. Like whatever we happen to walk by that says something, we're like, oh, cool. And I'm like, no, I really want the best inputs. And that goes for like AI too. Like if you're throwing a bunch of stuff in Notebook LLM, I'm sure you find like the better sources you put in, the better output you get, you know, kind of thing. So I think that's kind of the one general principle I was thinking of when I was thinking about this question.
Funny how much we agree on things, but also I also don't agree. Because
Give it to me.
I agree with this idea of curated inputs. I do. But then the problem is I don't do that a lot of the time. A lot of my philosophy towards things is just like osmosis through a lot of things. So, for example, if I want to learn a topic, like let's say understanding how to communicate with a sales team or something, or just how sales works. I think maybe your approach is like you want to find one source or maybe two sources that are like high quality and that people are subject matter experts and things like that. And what I would do is I would just find like things, and then I would just, even if they're crappy content, I would just listen or watch it. And a lot of the time I'm not fully paying attention. I think that's the difference, is I'm probably like on my phone, like playing Balatro or something, like
Awesome
while
game, by the
listening to
way.
this video that's just like, yes, it is an
It is
awesome
an
game.
awesome game.
Anyways, I'm literally addicted to that game. But I will have it on in the background because I'm also somebody who just consumes so much content in the back. I literally listen to videos while I'm showering. In my car and walking, and also just like hours when I'm winding down for the day, I'm just constantly have content on. And so for me, I'm just like listening 50%, and I just trust in the fact that like listen in the background, and then one day I will like watch an actual video with my full attention. And I'll be like, oh, actually, okay, like I heard that concept before, but I maybe heard it and I wasn't listening. So I'm like, okay, now I'm going to pay attention because this is something I'm interested in. And so like for me, I actually do kind of a little bit more quantity than quality for some of my stuff. And I find that helps. But again, it's a very like ADHD way of learning. I think it's because I just always have something on. So I just might as well just
Well, I think you can certainly get biased if you have too few sources too. So like I think a wider net can really help you to like make sure you're really seeing stuff. And if you have one or two people you're listening to only, I think that is a danger. I think probably like a lot of things, a combination is wise. If you're always just listening to the medium voice, you're going to get medium output kind of thing. But if you, which I'm not saying you're doing, and if you're only listening to people you assume are experts, then you're going to get a very branded, like just their view on it. So I would think like we probably both find ways to do both. I think for me, it's more like if you want to have better output, you have to turn a dial on the input. But I don't know that I'm always finding like, I really need better output here. It's just like, I want to learn this more generally, then fine. Like it can be more general, but I do think when you find real experts on a subject matter, it actually gives you the ears to hear other things and like decide how valuable they are. And sometimes it's like, okay, this expert is saying this, but they've brought up a lot of really good points that he never mentioned. Okay, well, they're going to be added to my new expert crowd then, you know, but a lot of times it's like, okay, this person's saying this thing, but they clearly don't understand it. Like, for instance, the Ralph Wiggum method. Like I saw a video the other day that's like, here's kind of the core idea, and here's how Anthropic implement it. Here's how these people implement it. And they're actually diverting from the original. And here's why the original is so important. And here's what they're trying to accomplish through that. And I'm like, okay, I didn't have the context to make that. But where I'd watched several videos on it so far, I'd played with it, but I had no idea really like the core idea. And so for me, I was like, okay, that's helpful for evaluative purposes. Even when I'm listening to other stuff, like, does this person understand what the kind of the original point was and like how context interacts with that? And so I think for me, it's like finding people that sit above the subject and allow you to like see the different areas allows me then to listen to something even of lesser quality and actually get something more out of it. So I don't think it's always that you like listen to the experts and dismiss everyone else, but I think the experts help you realize like, okay, this person doesn't actually understand this little area, but that's a valuable idea, you know, whereas in the past, I wouldn't even really have known what parts to keep and what parts to throw. So I don't know. And I think we probably both do that to some extent. There also is a real danger of bias too, if you like get super isolated. So I think that's a helpful caveat and like pushback.
Yeah, I think that's a really eloquent way to say it. How do you think about product, or how do you learn about product? I do think that's a really important thing when you're working in tech, which I didn't have anything built up a couple of years ago. So curious, like,
I mean, Recent's the first place I've really worked at. Like that's been a product first company in that kind of way where I had any kind of say into it. I feel in some ways like that's where we're strongest. Like the people who are over that are just so gifted. So I don't know that I have a lot of really in-depth like wisdom here. I think the biggest thing I try to do, to go back to the last episode we recorded, is I try to do frequent friction logs. So like we do a new thing or we revise some old way of working, and I'm just like, I'm going to come at this brand new using only the docs. And even if I know more, I'm going to like keep myself to that and really try to say like, okay, does this work? Does this make sense? Is this good developer, like a good developer experience? Is my first impression like match what the product is showing me? And so, and then I will either record like a full loom and just talk through it, or often I will have like a Notion doc where I'm just like, I did this first, then I did this. It didn't make sense here, so I got stuck. I turned to this. I found this document. I Googled. Like I'm just stepping through it. And so I found like, for me at least, like that's the way I've started approaching it. Like trying to help improve the product is just to be really honest and raw and give that kind of feedback. But that's my only real thought on that. So I need to grow more in that area.
Yeah, like for me, like one thing that's helped is I've listened to a lot of Lenny's podcast, which I think is good.
Agreed.
And I think it's because there's different stories of different founders, and I just learned a lot about like even like understanding like what ARR is and like how pivots for companies work and startups.
I think when it comes to like learning as a whole, I'll give a real brief. Like I usually go first to like whatever the subject matter source is. That's my preference. And I'll try to grok what they're saying. And then I do a broader search. I store everything inside of Obsidian, and I use that to link notes between things. So I'll have a general concept, like for instance, of empathy, but I have tons of notes linking to empathy. And it might be some totally random story that then when I'm like thinking about that, I can, these cross links really help. So I do that with like articles and videos where I'll summarize them, and then I link any important words to other words in my database so that I kind of have this like interlinked brain in Obsidian that really helps me. Second brain. Exactly. That's why I thought we were going last episode. But that really helps me connect the pieces. And for me, it's like I have to go through that whole process. And then as a verbal processor, obviously, since I can't stop talking, I will just have to talk it out. And a lot of times that's to myself, like just in my journal app or whatever. But that's kind of my general process. I put stuff in Obsidian. When I have time, I process it, and then I link it. And then as I have time, I try to talk through it and teach through it, even if it's to myself. And it helps me kind of understand where my gaps are, and then I go fill those in. So that's to get a little bit more boots on the ground,
I think
instead of just giving the philosophical better outputs, better inputs.
that's awesome. Do you have a video on that
don't
on your
know.
channel?
Okay.
You should. You should. I think that'd be. I would watch.
It's hard
I would
because it's
watch
so
that video.
personal, but that it'd be hard
Yeah,
to
I
show it
guess
off.
it's
but
fair. I'll do a quick tool thing. So, actually, you mentioned Ralph Wiggum, which is I'm assuming you saw my notes in
actually
the Notion.
didn't.
But yes, my thing.
No.
Oh, you didn't. I was gonna bring Ralph
That's
Wiggum. Okay,
awesome.
so
I love this mind meld.
yeah, so Ralph Wiggum is essentially a technique of using AI agents, I think is the best way to explain it. Ralph Wiggum, if you don't know, is a Simpsons character known for being very, very, very stupid. And the philosophy behind Ralph Wiggum is essentially saying the AI agent can be stupid, but even with a stupid AI agent, you can get the job done. So it's basically saying, I have a task, like, oh, I want to fix this bug in my website. And you also have like a passing criteria. So maybe the passing criteria is once the bug is finished, my website will load like 5 seconds faster. And then what you'll do is you'll set the agent on it, and you'll set like a max number of iterations. So let's say I say the max number of iterations is 100. The agent will iterate once, and it will probably fail. And then it will write to a .txt file of some sort saying like why it failed, like what it tried, what went right, and what went wrong. And then it'll just do it again with the same exact prompt. And it'll just go over and over again, and it will keep logging what does and doesn't work into this like .txt file. And the idea is it will just iterate over and over again, and eventually, with enough iterations and learning from what it did before, be able to complete the task. And so I've been playing around with Ralph Wiggum, and I think it's really interesting. And I think it is more interesting in the sense of there are these cool techniques that are being developed in AI, which is similar to like frameworks that you use for like web design and stuff. And personally, I actually don't think Ralph Wiggum is in a way very efficient or very token efficient. But I think it's interesting that it exists and that there's these ways of thinking about like using AI in cool ways. So that's kind of
Cool.
Ralph Wiggum. Yeah.
Yeah, well, mine is AI related as well. It's actually a new skill that we just dropped today as we're recording this for React email. We actually have 3. One is for resend, one's for React email, one's a general email best practices. But the React email one in particular, React email is an open source project that we maintain where you build email templates using React. And I'm really proud of it. It like works super well where you can just add this skill, this AI skill, and then it will invoke it and basically follow all our kind of expertise on the best way to use React email. And so if you haven't used a skill before, you can there's a couple of different ways to install them, but Vercel dropped like a installer basically. If you do npx add dash skill, and then just the repo, it will install that particular skill. There's a bunch of other ways to install as well. And you can install it globally or per project, but you can literally just install like the React email one and then just say like, build me a bunch of auth emails. Here's my logo. And it just does it. And so we're still, tweaking it, hopefully making it better as well. But I've been really, really impressed with the concept of skills. I have a lot of things I want to ask Jess, but we don't have time. So we need to have a conversation.
Give a one-liner. Give like a one-liner of what a skill is, just for our viewers.
So
who
a
might not
skill
know.
is a way to provide expertise to an agent while also being both context like aware and like efficient, and also allowing it to have enough agency to where it can think still and like operate with a good level of agency. So the nice thing about it is they're super context aware, so it only loads in the name and the description to start with, and then it can progressively get more context as it needs it. Whereas like with an MCP server or something like that, you load the whole thing into your context. So it's very context aware, and then it's not quite as rigid as MCP, so that it can have a little bit more movement to think and kind of apply the expertise like a human would. But the whole idea is you're trying to get past kind of the medium of what AI knows, and you're trying to say like, let's just get the expert knowledge, and to do that in a token efficient way. So that's my understanding of a skill, but that's what I want to talk about to Jess about.
That's very
Okay.
well explained.
Well, one of these
Very
days
well
we'll have to
explained.
chat.
Okay. Show and tell. Mine is funny. Do you have the Notion doc open? So mine is food related. It's 2 food items. Bijan mustard sin is the first one. If you don't know who Bijan is. He's a football player, and he has his own mustard brand.
Nice.
It's a play on Dijon mustard. So I got this for Christmas. It's a joke. And then the other one is I want to shout out freaking Trader Joe's creamy corn. This stuff is so good. I'm so bummed because I think it was like a Thanksgiving release. I found it in Trader Joe's. I was addicted to it for like a couple months and I cannot find it anymore because I think they took it away for Thanksgiving because it's not Thanksgiving anymore. And I'm so bummed and I want Trader Joe's to bring this back like full time. It says limited time. Why not full time? It's so good. It's so good. Anyways, please bring it back.
Please, Trader Joe's, listen to our podcast.
Okay, that's mine.
Man, I'm like really into creamy corn now. This sounds amazing. I brought something that used to be my backdrop, but it's this pillow of like an SE30 by Throwboy.
Oh, yes.
And I don't think I've shown this off yet, but it's like one of my favorite like little impulse purchases I've gotten over the years. I don't have it in my backdrop because it doesn't fit super well on the shelf, but I do have it in my chair where I sit a lot and read and stuff. So get yourself a Throwboy SE30 Classic Mac. So if you can't see it, sorry, but check out YouTube or whatever.
I've seen it on Chris's like backdrop, like before he had this fancy background. Like that was always in the backdrop on the corner of your bookshelf, and it was I remember seeing it many times. It's very cute.
Well, thanks everyone for watching, and thanks Jess for chatting, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.